I gotta be real with you guys, I don't remember the last time I have disagreed so vehemently with IMDb's rating of a movie. For those of you who don't know, typically a decent movie on IMDb gets like a 6.5. Good movies get a 7, great movies get an 8. Anything below a 6, usually not gonna be worth your time. But a movie called AZRAEL, a recent horror release starring Samara Weaving, is currently languishing at a 5.4. And this is so crazy to me. This is reminding me why I started this channel in the first place. In my last video, I told you that Nosferatu is the best horror movie of the year. And like, no shit, right? Tons of reviewers are saying that. What do you need me for? But you do need me for this. So I say, welcome back everybody. I'm Jake, the Scary Story Guy. And today we're talking about the second best horror movie of 2024. And 99% of you probably haven't even heard of it. AZRAEL is the story of AZRAEL, a young woman who lives in a world where the rapture, the bit of Christian mythos where all the righteous are taken up into heaven, that's already happened, okay? A long time ago, in fact. So the world we're in, it's just what's left over. Now, the rapture has been depicted many times in film, most hilariously, of course, in the 2013 comedy This Is the End, but we don't have a ton of post-rapture media, right? Usually that's the end of the story, or at least you hope it is. But I love this movie because it explores, like, what about the people left over? They're probably gonna have quite a time trying to make sense of their exclusion from the pearly gates. I wonder how they'll cope. In this film, some of them basically become religious radicals, and they take some Bible verse or other about, like, our speech is making us evil, and so they voluntarily forego their ability to speak. So they've all got this cross-shaped scar on their necks, some surgical procedure to cut the vocal cords or something. Like, hey, maybe we'll all be less evil if we can't talk. All you teachers out there may recognize these people. These are the kids who try to turn in all their work after the term's already over. Anyway, enough time has passed since the rapture that this cult is old enough that some people are being born into it, right? So this speechless world is all they know. This is the world that Samara Weaving is born into, and we open the movie with her trying to escape this cult. So that's the premise. You know, that's what I'll give you to whet your appetite. But frankly, if you've heard Samara Weaving, the premise I just told you, and the fact that this movie is only 80 minutes long, and you're still not sold, what do you want? You want me to dance for you? Come on. You know you're watching this movie. Samara Weaving is an S-tier scream queen. She's truly one of the greats of our generation. But believe me when I tell you, this is a career best performance. The entire movie basically hinges on, like, okay, nobody's gonna say a fucking word. How much can this girl captivate you as the viewer with just her mannerisms, her expressions, her postures? And the answer turns out to be, like, the maximum amount. This is such a crazy performance. It's like she's feral. I don't know that a movie's ever made me realize so fully that we're just glorified animals. Like, watch how a deer acts when a predator's around. Like, without our capacity for language, that is us. And you feel that so strongly in every choice that Weaving makes here. I can't say enough good about her. Frankly, she is in a two-woman race with Lily Rose Depp for Horror Performance of the Year. You also feel the animalistic nature of what's going on here in the violence. Like, it is so real. It is the anti-John Wick. I mean, none of us have ever met a single person who can do basically anything that's in our modern action movies. The quality of the violence is always so stylized and choreographed. When people fight in this movie, it is no holds barred, just two hairless apes going at it. Like, who wants to survive more? I am not a sensitive chap by any means, but this movie made me cringe a few times. I'll even admit this in front of the world, it even made me gasp a couple times, out loud. It's just so visceral. It is crazy how little you actually need dialogue when our base animal instincts are doing so much talking. Speaking of which, yeah, there is not a single word of English spoken here. There's one character who speaks, but he's, like, not from the cult, so when she hears him speak, it's kind of like those videos that's like, here's what English sounds to a non-English speaker. That's kind of what they do with it. It sounds very cool. But I've seen some mixed feelings on this. Even a couple reviewers that I respect, they couldn't get behind it. They're like, yeah, I just don't like it, the whole no talking thing. And I'm sympathetic to that, because there was a movie a couple years back called No One Will Save You, starring Caitlin Dever. I actually reviewed it on this channel, and it has kind of a similar conceit, like a no talking thing, the entire movie. And that started to grate on my nerves after a while. But here the difference is it doesn't feel like a conceit, right? It is the whole point of what's being done here. The entire movie hinges on it. So granted, this is not a normal movie, right? If you're someone who's like, yeah, I need the characters to actually speak in order for me to enjoy a film, then maybe this is not the movie for you. But if you're one of the cool kids, you're open to a movie community communicating with you in more subtle ways, then this is undoubtedly one of the freshest and most exciting horror films of the year. Also, again, I cannot stress this enough, it's only 80 minutes long, right? I've been on drives with multiple people in the car where we all went at least that long without saying a single word to each other. We all survived that. This is also a very beautifully shot movie. It's very nature-centric. It all takes place outdoors. You feel like you can smell the fresh air basically the entire time. Except for, you know, there are a couple of parts where you're like, oh, that probably smells pretty awful, actually, but we don't need to get into spoilers here. I will at least mention there are some creatures in this post-apocalyptic world. The threat is not merely coming from this cult. There are other darker forces afoot here, and they are freaky. This is just really effective, not merely as a film, but as a horror film specifically. This is a sweaty palms, kind of adrenaline ride, I'll relax when the movie's over type shit. And as someone who always appreciates a nice stuck landing, I'll tell you that the ending of this movie is incredibly satisfying. Because you're like, oh, maybe the movie's gonna end this way, or you know, maybe it's gonna go this way. And then it just completely blindsides you. Like, have you considered this completely different third way? And you're like, that is a better way. That's a killer ending. So yeah, 5.4 on IMDb. Go f yourselves. This is so much better than that. This is a full 3 points better than that, you troglodytes. In the Judeo-Christian tradition, AZRAEL is the angel of death. It's basically the coolest possible name you could give to a character in a horror movie. And in keeping with that, this is basically one of the coolest possible horror movies. It is quick, it's dirty, and best of all, it is thought-provoking, right? It's sticky. If you're anything like me, you're not gonna be able to stop thinking about it for a long time. And let me just reiterate, if you liked Samara Weaving in The Babysitter, if you liked her in Ready or Not, which who wouldn't? You ain't seen nothing yet. This performance is gritty as hell. It's so much fun. It really just catapults the movie from like this kind of maybe bare bones script with some interesting ideas all the way up to just like a flawlessly executed horror movie. So all that said, I am gonna give AZRAEL 4.5 stars out of 5. All right, guys, as always, stay tuned for more spooky content coming soon. I'll have some year-end lists for you before too long. But in the meantime, thank you for watching this video, and here's hoping you survive to see the next one.